Mouth breather. Been delayed significantly on doing another Burying the Brad video. I know what story I'm going to do, and I know approximately what I'm going to do about it, but sitting down and focusing on it has taken a while. It might happen this coming July 3rd when I'll have a little extra time because of the holiday, but it also might not. The experience of having the wind not be properly recorded, not having the audio record, that has really set back my motivation, because I get very easily demoralized whenever my work fails to connect for whatever reason. So anyway, so doing something different in the meantime while I wait to get my ducks in a row on the third Bradbury story. I've been wanting to do Fallout-related content for a while, since Fallout 3 has been my favorite game of all time since about 6 months after I moved into my new house, my new apartment after the old house burned. So that whole thing. Fallout 3 has really been a companion to me in troubled times, and the question of what my favorite game of all time was took a really long time to answer. All of the others, I'd been playing games for 25 years, and many of them were great, but never was any one of them clearly the number one winner. And Fallout 3, with all of its flaws, just instantly set itself head and shoulders above all the rest. I've also dabbled in Fallout 4 and am starting to get seriously into Fallout New Vegas, so I'm a huge fan of this series, and I wanted to talk about it. I unfortunately don't know how to do video capture in a game. Maybe at some point I'll be able to figure that out, but that market is pretty well saturated, and I felt like there was probably not an awful lot of chance that anybody was willing to listen to me just talk about Fallout 3, but I finally decided to take the plunge today because I came up with a subject where it's not helpful to have game footage. So this is something that you're just going to have to talk about regardless, so you could talk about it over random game footage, but it wouldn't be demonstrated by that, so it wouldn't make that big of a difference. So I'm hoping that Fallout 3 fans who mostly want to see the game being played will put up with one talking head lecture from me about a subject where if I tried to document it visually, it wouldn't be the game, it would just be the file system, and the point I was making wouldn't really be proved by the visual evidence anyway. So, all that preamble out of the way, here's where I'm going to actually talk. So, who is the most important person in the world of Fallout 3? The world is the capital wasteland setting, the world in which the game takes place. Who is the most important person? Now, you might say it's the Lone Wanderer, the player character, because the game literally revolves around them, but you would be wrong. The Lone Wanderer is the driving force in the story, but they're not the most important part of the story. They're not to make a direct comparison to a piece of pop culture that a lot of people are familiar with, the Never-Ending Story. Probably the movie, although there's also a book, and there's an interesting conversation about the two. But I'm going to talk about the movie because that's the one that most people are familiar with. So, The Never-Ending Story is a story about a little boy in the real world named Bastian who is reading a book called The Never-Ending Story, which, among other things, tells the story of a boy in the world of Fantasia called Atreyu. And yes, the band Atreyu is named after this. The boy Atreyu is having an adventure to try and save the fantasy kingdom of Fantasia, which is being destroyed by the Nothing, and Bastian, the real boy, is reading this story, and it's one of the earliest kind of metafiction stories that made it to pop culture long before The Matrix and other things that would play with the distinction between the person experiencing the media and the media itself. So anyway, so the Never-Ending Story example, the Lone Wanderer is Atreyu. They are the person who is going and having the adventure in the game, but the most important person in the story of the Never-Ending Story is not Atreyu, and it's not Bastion either. It's the thing that I'm getting at would be the character of the childlike Empress. She is the one who doesn't really do anything, but the whole game tilts around her. She is the central focus point of Fantasia as a universe that exists in the imagination of readers like Bastion. So, who is that for Fallout 3? Some people would say it would be meta and say that it's Bethesda Game Softworks, the company that made the game, because Bethesda, the physical campus of the Bethesda offices, or a version thereof, yeah, I don't know how accurate it is, but they put their own location into the game. It's a badass ruins site of filled with raiders. A lot of players will go there because it has the lockpick bobblehead in it. I happen to like it mostly because the building that contains the lockpick bobblehead also contains a unique ambient soundscape that you find nowhere else in the game, where they have the howling wind sounding a certain way that I really enjoy, and it's a place I would just go to hang out because of it's right up there with the corridors of Rivet City as just, if I have to fill out my tax returns or something, I would like to be in that environment listening to that soundscape while I do it, because that would relax me a lot. But anyway, so the Bethesda is a location in the game, and a nice kind of meta joke in there is that the Bethesda Underworks, the underground section below the facility, is full of ghouls, who I'm sure the programmers of the game were thinking of themselves as, we're just going to be trapped on indoors, underground, never seeing the sun, and working on this game for 200 years while the bombs fall all around us until the radiation turns us into mindless feral ghouls. So that's a good joke, and so you could argue that the programmers are pretty important and they put themselves into the game. So maybe they're the childlike Empress here. Nope, it's not them either. The most important here, I'll make it nice and obvious for bookmarking purposes. The most important person in the game is Angela Staley. Most people probably haven't experienced this, but due to my particular history with the game, I discovered this the hard way. So I played through the game initially with two characters, Matt the male and Spike the female, those were my first characters, and then I made a whole bunch of others, and I won't go through the whole sordid story, but something happened when I was playing as Spike. So both characters are supposed to be good, but Spike was a little more down and dirty about it. She was a person who was good by the shallow definition, and thought it was super good to murder people if they happened to have the evil tag hanging around their neck, that kind of thing. So, in any event, she was willing to kill under circumstances of emotional provocation, and for some reason that I don't quite fully remember, I think she was going after the junkie that lives in Rivet City, Polly Cantelli, and so she killed Polly, and Polly's wife ran out of the room screaming and started a panic among the citizens, and they all ran in and started attacking, and Spike defended herself and killed a bunch of them. And one of the people who died in the crossfire was Angela Staley. So I went on playing Spike for numerous additional games, having no idea that I had sealed my death warrant because I had unintentionally killed the person who was the most important in the entire game. So what I'm talking about is a glitch. It's not intended by the programmers, but it does affect the reality within the game world, so it counts as being this kind of thing that I'm talking about. In order to get at what I'm saying here, I'm going to reference the Elder Scrolls, the other title from Bethesda that famously set them up to be able to do Fallout 3, because prior to that, Fallout wasn't even a 3D game, but they did such a good job of making the fourth Elder Scrolls game, Oblivion, which was a fully 3D immersive experience, that set them up to take the Fallout setting and put it into a similar 3D immersive experience, and the result is this game that I really like. So, in the Elder Scrolls setting, if you read deeply into the lore, you'll find some concepts that are metaphysical that have been stuck in there by a writer by the name of Michael Kirkbride, who is not the only driving force behind the Elder Scrolls setting, but he was in a position to decide things that were true of it on this metaphysical level, this metaphor that informs the plot of the game. And so the underlying truth of the Elder Scrolls universe is that the Elder Scrolls universe does not exist. The entire setting is within itself, within its own lore, ignoring the fact that it's actually a video game. The setting is just as unreal as if it was a video game, but the in-universe explanation is that there is some unknowable being, possibly a god, but possibly just a normal person, who is having a dream, and the Elder Scrolls universe is that dream, and nothing in it exists, and one day the dreamer will awake and the whole universe will just vanish. So that concept within the Elder Scrolls setting is tied to the concept of Kim, which I won't get into. There's a really good video by the Exploring series that details what Kim is and goes over this stuff in detail. But the point is, there's this one person who is dreaming the whole setting, and if that dreamer were to awake, the setting would go away. Now, we might suspect that it goes away instantly the moment the dreamer awakes, but it's also possible that that the dream has its own reality, and that the sleeping dreamer keeps the reality stable and anchored to their sleeping mind, but then when they awake, this bubble of reality floats away from their mind and off into the distance, and then at some point it starts to destabilize and shrink and eventually pops and disappears into nothingness. So that's what happened to Spike after she killed Angela Staley, and that's how I know that Angela Staley is the person who is having the dream, which the world of Fallout 3 is the dream setting of. So Angela is dreaming this, and she puts herself into the dream as a character, and if her character is killed, it takes her out of the dream, it makes her start to wake up, and the dream world starts to destabilize around you. I know that this is true because it happened to Spike several levels later in her career as a character. She started to have the game crash on her on a regular basis, and eventually, I figured out that what was happening was that the game would crash anytime I was in or near Rivet City. If I went anywhere in the southeastern, ninth of the map, anywhere close to Rivet City, there was an increasingly mounting chance every second that I played the game that the game was going to crash. And eventually I read up on the wiki and found out what was going on. The glitch in the game, this could have happened to anybody. It's possible that it was meant to happen to certain characters who are essential to the narrative, but for whatever reason, it ended up just being Angela, of whom this is true. If Angela is dead, is not present in Rivet City, her father, Gary Staley, the guy who runs the restaurant in the Rivet City Market, he will attempt to talk to her and not be able to find her, and the game will explode as a result. The game will destabilize because an NPC tried to perform an action which is impossible, and the computer code crashes as a result. So, Angela Staley is the focal point of that universe. If she's not there, then the universe could just go kaput at any second because somebody looks for her and doesn't find her. So, this happened to Spike. She initially started crashing when she was in the Rivet City Science Lab with Dad, and it was very difficult for her to get out of there, having successfully set the main quest in motion. It became non-viable, and then she was feeling reality destabilize in Rivet City, and she was going, okay, I'm just never going to go to Rivet City. I'm going to live the rest of my Lone Wanderer existence not touching that corner of the map. But it turned out that the bubble of destruction was expanding away from Rivet City to Project Purity and all the way up to the irradiated metro area near Project Purity, where there are some super mutants in a destroyed school next to the Potomac River, across from the irradiated metro, which is near the Skyway Bridge with the super mutant with the rocket launcher and minigun and so forth. That whole place. This is an area that players of the game, even if they're ignoring the main plot, they'll probably notice this area sooner or later because the caravans will pass through it a lot, and those super mutants on that elevated bridge are really good at killing the caravans. So if one of your caravans goes missing, that's one of the places where it's more likely to have happened if your character was close enough to that area that the game was rendering that area as a reality and said, oh hey, this caravan member is in this area, this super mutant is in this area, this super mutant is going to roll an attack on the caravan member, oh whoops, the caravan member randomly died. That can happen a lot. So Spike was in this area. Spike teleported to the irradiated metro, and the game was crashing every few seconds. I have a save that literally, if I load that save, I can take like 2 steps and the game will crash 100% of the time, because it was that close to being condemned because of Gary trying to talk to his missing daughter. So in order to prevent Spike from being a permanently unplayable character, I had to do my first probably ever use of console commands, went to the console commands and deleted Gary Staley from existence, because that was the only way to stop him constantly trying to cry out to the heavens for the soul of his dead daughter, and God answers the prayer by deleting the universe and thereby punishing the murderer. So Spike had to hack the game in order to be able to continue playing, and even that, I think, didn't fully work, so that version of Spike kind of went ahead and just avoids that area, but another version of Spike loaded an earlier save and replayed some sections so that I could continue playing and not have killed Angela, because she's the most important person in the game. This is how I learned this. Many players of the game probably don't know this, and it's a really difficult thing to prove with game footage, because if you're taking footage of the game and your game suddenly crashes, that's not going to look good on the recording. So it can only really be told about it, and I have now told you about it. So hopefully, even if you're not willing to watch a talking head discuss Fallout with no game footage under any other circumstances, this subject couldn't really be discussed any other way anyway. So I hope I have made my contribution to the community in this way.